Hey, what's up everyone? First I keep getting messages that people don't like my voice. Now I keep getting messages that people want my voice back. Like, sometimes I don't know what you all want, but here I am. My voice is back. I will be voicing in my videos myself for the most part again. So there you go, that's my service to you. And I do want to give you a fair bit of a warning though. There's a lot of construction going on in the apartment complex that I live, as well as the street that I live, because we live in the city center, and city centers tend to be a bit noisy. I used to stay up until like 4 AM at night to be able to record my videos when everything is nice and quiet, but I have been fixing my sleeping pattern. I've been living a bit more healthier than I used to, so I don't really want to go back to those kind of patterns. The AI voices really allowed me to spend my day outside, go for a walk, write a nice script, and then put my videos out like that. But I'm just going to do my videos unscripted again, because reading a script doesn't work for me for some reason. Because when I start reading a script, I keep stumbling on my word for whatever reason. I don't know why, I don't know what's the science behind it. Maybe I'm just not used to it. But yeah, I'll just voice in my videos on the fly like I always do, and just give my opinion and share my thoughts, and I hope everyone is happy that way. My Yu-Gi-Oh content, by the way, on the main channel, I will continue to use AI voice for the foreseeable future, because the community there seems to enjoy those voices quite a bit, so I might as well take full advantage of that and write good scripts for that game. But anyways, Flesh and Blood, let's dive into Uzuri. So the deck that I've been mostly playing myself lately, I feel like I'm a little bit cheating on Katsu, because I was playing Katsu heavily, like optimizing it, putting new stuff in, and the deck is great. It's a really good deck. However, once you end up against decks that have a significant amount of disruption, which things like Azalea and such definitely does, then Katsu can sometimes become a little bit awkward, and you cannot really gain the footing that you would want to have. Now with all team gone, I'm probably gonna switch back to Katsu, but right now Ultim is still around, so I cannot really do that. So at the moment I've just been playing Uzuri, and I've been having a really great time, especially with the deckers being able to kind of nitpick and decide like, okay, I don't want your attacks to block for as much, or I don't want your defense reactions to block for as much. It's a really intuitive, nice playstyle. It almost feels like one of my favorite decks in Blitz, Ira. It's not exactly like Ira, because Ira you come in with the Kodachi, and then you have your, for example, you command and conquer for 7, and you of course don't have the master momentum and such, but it has a very similar feel to it, that you are constantly presenting these difficult choices to your opponent. In Ira's case, it's with the master momentum, like, do you block or do you not block? Like, is the next thing the thing I want to block or not? And it's kind of the same with playing a stealth card and then following that up with the attack reaction and putting something like a command and conquer or a death touch onto the board. So I went ahead and I compared a lot of different Uzuri lists out there to try and find something that I can play at a competitive level that is similar to that kind of a playstyle that I enjoy playing. I was practicing this a bit with one of my patrons, Madivs, and he wanted to bring this one to Road to National, but still we've been looking over a lot of lists. We've practiced for a couple of hours, and there was one list in particular from a user named KitterFox, I believe, and KitterFox has this very nice streamlined redliner Uzuri list that also runs stuff like Shred in the sideboard for those matchups that like to block a lot. And I personally, I really like this version of Uzuri. The contract version is also very nice. I believe the contract version, from what I've seen, they don't play as many shreds, but this one makes it a lot easier for your on-hit effects from stuff like command and conquer, death touch, your shakedowns to actually matter, make it more difficult for your opponent to deal with. So I really like this list. I ended up making some adjustments. I believe the original list had 3 copies of Wither and 2 copies of Sedate, but right now with all teams still in the format, I went to 3 copies of Sedate instead of 3 copies of Wither. I'm probably going to be swapping this around as soon as Ultim is gone because frailty tokens are just too damn good in the current format, especially when we're going to be having the go wide aggro ranger decks pretty much showing up everywhere. But what I like about this deck is that you can really generate some very small incremental value with things with things like that. You have so many tree blocks, so you can very easily block out whatever your opponent is trying to do when they have a good turn, and then when they finally have a bad turn, then you come in with your massive isolated command and conquer, screwing up their arsenal, or you come in with a massive death touch, which then on hit you can give them a frailty or inertia token, whichever one you prefer. It's really matchup dependent. And then on top of that, because you are running so many 6 attacks in the main deck already, and you do have a little bit of sideboard space to have a couple more 6 attacks, you have a kind of decent Drum Mine matchup. I wouldn't say the Drum Mine matchup is super great, but with this version of Uzuri, with things like the Hurl in the sideboard, it's a little bit easier to be able to deal with the dragons. Of course, if they get the Mirror Guide down, then they are probably going to be playing in such a way that it becomes very awkward for you to block pretty much anything. But you have a decent enough matchup that things can kind of go your favor. So right now we're still running the Vambrace of Determination in the deck. This is something that pretty much all the good Uzuri lists out there are playing. I guess when Ultim is gone, if we don't get some kind of a weird jank pile like Briar Control, because I did see some people brewing with Briar Control. I don't know if it's gonna work. I've heard, I haven't even tested it myself, but there are some people saying like, there's some really good Earth defense reactions, and you can really go full control with Briar thanks to the embodiment of Earth. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's gonna be a deck that's gonna be viable, but I've been wrong before. I've been wrong plenty of times. I thought that Icelander was a bad deck for the longest time, simply because all the data I was getting in from various events around the world, Icelander kept showing up at like a 40% win rate or something, and I was thinking like, nah, this deck is pure garbage. So I've definitely been wrong before. So the original list, it runs blue shreds. I think right now, because we don't see as much Icelander, we don't have to worry about ice decks as much. I think the blue shreds are a bit overkill. I prefer the red shreds because that way you can counter out something like a Sing Below that's played at the right moment. So I really love the red shreds. They have been performing quite well for me. If you have a lot of Icelanders or wizards in your local meta, you probably want to go to blue shreds. But I think in terms of matchups, if you get paired into something like a Kano, then you're probably going to be losing anyway, simply because you have so many so few blue sources to be able to stop arcane damage, and I don't think the honored effects matter enough to really punish Kano fast enough, because this deck is, even though it has really good honored effects, it is very limited in its aggro potential. And of course, you can string some stuff together to have a big turn by bringing your Snapdragon Scalers and then playing something like a Leave No Witness, Snapdragon Scalering it, and then Stealth Attack going into a 6 attack. But that's something you can only do once in a game, and when Kano doesn't have that combo ready, they're just going to be blocking that out, which makes things a little bit awkward. Of course, you can high roll, and then maybe you pitch your Plague Hive and you give them an inertia token, making it a little bit more awkward for them. But it's the deck, it has good matchups, it has bad matchups. There's not really anything to say about that. The Down and Dirties though, they have been absolutely phenomenal, because with Down and Dirty you have, first of all, you have a 6 attack that can very easily block stuff like dragons against illusionist. But then if you have an opponent that is a ranger or an assassin and they play something like a Curated of Frailty in the late game, you can very easily fetch your Down and Dirty from your graveyard, put that into your arsenal, so you have an additional 2 block to stop whatever on hit that they are trying to punish you with to win the game with. So it has saved me a few times, the Down and Dirty. It's It's not the greatest card in terms of actual, like, it has no on-hit effect, it's just a 6 attack, it's just a 2 block, so if you have it in your hand, it's not the greatest, but once you get this thing in your arsenal, it's almost like a pseudo-defense reaction, especially against decks like Azalea. They like to sometimes play stuff that stops you from using defense reactions, and this is not a defense reaction, so you can just block with it from the arsenal. And then the star of the show, I think Frailty Trap. It's probably the one trap that makes this deck viable at all, because we have so many Go White Rangers, we have so many ninja decks as well lately. I guess against things like Dash this isn't as good, but against Lexi especially, if Lexi plays a Bolden Shot with that +1 from the Voltaire, and you Frailty Trap that, because that's Go Again, they lose the +1 and then they automatically also lose the Go Again on the Bolden Shot. It's just really insane, especially since they like to use their Bolden Shots early on because they want to benefit from that reload effect. So with a Frailty Trap you can very easily just completely screw over the turn and completely get rid of all the value. Like what I like to do with Frailty Trap is, I know that they're going to try and Tree of a Kind at some point. We all know it, like Lexi loves the Tree of a Kind and have this really massive Go White turn. We're trying to utilize everything they can from the arrows that they draw, but with Frailty Trap you can kind of mitigate the potential of those turns by giving them the Frailty token, so all the arrows will have -1 attack to begin with, and then also being able to sometimes snipe a Bolden Shot to completely just on the spot end the turn and then moving over to your turn. And I think that's what Uzuri does best. Like Uzuri is very good at disrupting the opponent's game plan with these little incremental value things, like and little on hits like the Command and Conquer, and then you want to kind of stay alive as long as possible so you can keep benefiting from these little bits of extra value you can get out of your attacks here and there. It's just beautiful. And then also the Codex of Frailty is just such a big power card. You kind of want to stay alive long enough that you can get the maximum value out of your Codex of Frailties, because Codex of Frailty with something like a Leave No Witness or even a Death Touch with 3 counters on your tunic, it's incredible value, like giving your opponent a Frailty token, getting a Ponder token that's already, like, I guess a 4 value right there if you don't have anything in your hand, but then also being able to Leave No Witness, for example, which can completely screw over their arsenal, especially if you force them to put something into the arsenal and discarding with Codex of Frailty. It's just such a beautiful move, and it makes this deck all the more fun in my opinion. Like, I know Codex is really above value in terms of what it does, but I really hope that this card does not get banned, because if this gets banned, then Uzuri is probably no longer playable. Like right now, it's already a bit of a fringe deck and not 100% playable, because there's like a significant amount of bad matchups. But yeah, so in terms of matchups, for the most part, where you're sideboarding against aggro, you're obviously not gonna need that many shreds because they're not going to be blocking all that much anyway, so you just bring your 2 yellow shreds and kind of call it a day. But the Frailty Trap's really good against aggro, against ninja, against Lexi, against pretty much anything plays from the arsenal, also plays the weapon. The Frailty Trap is just too good. Humble is really good against Lexi and Katsu especially, because if you can turn Katsu's ability off, then you're kind of in a safe spot that you know that they're not going to be comboing off in your turn. And if you can get a Humble to hit at the right moment against something like a Lexi, and if they are in a position where they put something like a Arctic Incarceration into the arsenal, then they are a bit in trouble, because they need to flip the Arctic Incarceration with the Lexi ability, otherwise they don't have a second arsenal slot for the New Horizon. And with Humble you turn that ability off, so they kind of get in a position where you completely steal the turn from them, so Humble is quite good against them as well. Play Kai for some additional value, and then the Saint Below is able to stop their stop the on-hit effects a little bit more efficient together with your equipment. So other than that, yeah, I mean, we have the red shreds against Bravo because it's a control deck. You can, I will put the link to this list down in the description, and then you can go through it, and I will see you all soon. I'm going to be optimizing Dorinthia next, because I do think Dorinthia in an Ultimalist meta is going to have quite a bit of potential, especially since she's gonna get a few new cards in the next set as well. So keep an eye out for that. I will share the Dorinthia CC and Blitz decks over on my Patreon, either at the end of this week or sometime in the middle of next week. I'm still in the middle of optimizing those. And yeah, that's pretty much all from me. Have fun with the Uzuri list, and I will see you all next time with another video. Take care.